Okay, once again, good morning, everybody. In today's class, we look into form selectors. And if you remember the selector basics, just I will quickly cover that so that you will come to know what we are going to talk about today. Basic selectors, that is jQuery pseudo class. So, in case of a jQuery, we have a pseudo class called a jQuery. This we can be used to. We can use it as a selectors, and we select the different objects that are different elements that are present in the DOM. And the shortcut notation for this is a dollar. Okay, dollar is this is shortcut notation for the jQuery. Basically, we use that for the as a selector, and this is dollar, and if you give asterisk, it is going to select. It's a universal selector. It is going to select all the elements that are present. If you provide the tag, whichever the tag is present, if you say div, it is going to select all the div elements. And if you specify dollar inside the bracket dot class, whatever the class selectors are there inside your DOM structure, those will be uh, 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 those will be matched, and those will be collected. And similarly, a dollar ID, wherever the ID matches, you can give this, all the elements which has the particular ID which matches this ID. Those elements will be selected. Okay, this is example for the ID. The name of the ID is grab. Whichever element is having the ID as grab, reference will be brought. That object will be, that element will be accessed. The similarly, this one, it will get all the links that are present. And similarly, we can do the attribute selector, pseudo element selector, and contextual selector, which we saw in the earlier classes. This is one example where you are selecting UL, and then descendant is a link. Okay, so we have UL, and these are the descendants. So it's going to select all these links. Similarly, we have other examples. This is like the immediate child. Dollar main, it will look for the dollar main ID. This is the ID main, and inside that the first descendant, that is, this is the first descendant. If you do want all the time, then you will give the space. Then it will select all the uh, elements which are inside the main. Okay, so we have one more here. This particular will select this element as well as this element. So these are the pseudo elements that we can use for selecting dollar link, sorry, colon link, colon visited, colon focus, and so on. This is the usage. So it is going to get, what it is going to get is, in this particular case, all the links which are visited. Okay, so it is going to get all those elements, all those links which are visited. Okay, these are content filters. So content filters is like, if you want to check something, and when you are selecting, if you want to check the content, then you can use this way. One of the method is contains. If that particular element contains a warning, so it's a case sensitive, then it will select that particular element. So inside the body, all the element that contains a warning, you can say inside the body we have h1, this matches, and this doesn't match because it is like w is capital, and here we have warning, this paragraph will get matched. And also this link, it matches, this will also get selected. And this paragraph is also selected because this element is inside this particular parent element. Now we will see the form selector, how we can select the form elements. First one is the this is the selector, then CSS equivalent, and the description is given. So if you use the dollar represents a jQuery, so pseudo class, and inside the bracket you have colon button. So what it will do, inside your form, whichever buttons are present, it is going to select all the buttons. And this is the CSS equivalent. Dollar inside the bracket we have button comma input type is equal to button. Then this colon checkbox, it's going to select all the checkboxes, colon checked. So there is no equivalent CSS equivalent. Colon checked, what it will do is it will select all the elements, all the radio buttons as well as the checkboxes which are selected. Like you have checkboxes and some items are selected, it is going to some items are checked, it is going to select those elements. Okay. It covers radio button as well as the checkboxes. Disabled, it will collect all the elements which are disabled. Colon enabled, it's going to collect all the elements which are enabled. Dollar file, it is going to collect select all the elements which are of a type file. And colon focus will select all the elements which are having the focus. Colon image, it will select all the elements which are of type image. Colon input, it is going to select all the inputs. So in the input we have like input, text area, select, and button elements. It is going to select everything. Password, colon password, it is going to select all the password elements. This is going to select all the radio elements. This is going to select all the reset buttons. And uh, colon selected, so colon selected, it is going to select all the elements that are selected and are of type option. Okay. This selected does not cover the radio button or the radio button or the check boxes. If you want to check whatever is checked for the radio button and checkbox, you have to use a colon checked. This colon selected is the option type. If you remember, like we had some form where we had a drop down list of states. If certain state is selected, it is going to select that particular element. Colon submit, it will select all the submit inputs that are available. Colon text selects all input elements which are of type text. Okay, jQuery attributes. In order to understand how fully manipulate the elements, you now have to access to one must understand the element attributes and the properties. The core set of attributes related to DOM elements are the ones specified in the HTML tags. In the HTML tags, whatever we specified the attributes, those are the ones that will be used to access. For example, for the A tag, that is a link tag, we have a href attribute. For image, we have src attribute. And most of the elements, if you have specified, it will have the class attribute. In jQuery, we can both set and get the attributes value by using a attr method. So this is the method using which we can both set as well as the get the attribute. So same method is used for setting the attribute as well as the getting the attribute. So this is the var link assigned the href attribute of the first a tag. So var link is equal to, this is the jQuery shortcut notation dollar, and this will get the first link and dot attribute href. So it is going to get that value and it is going to store in whatever the href that has been specified, that will be fetched and it will be stored in this link. So if you want to change the link, this is how you are going to use. You are going to use the same method attr. So as I said, it can set the attribute as well as it can get the attribute. This is a setting of the attribute. This is jQuery shortcut notation dollar inside the bracket a. This is the link, first link. dot attr, you will excuse me, you will specify the attribute. Href is the attribute, and the second parameter, if you provide the second parameter, that will be set as the value. So for href, this particular value will be set. If you want to change the class, we can do that. Dollar, this is the jQuery shortcut notation. Inside the bracket img, it is going to select the img, all the img elements, dot attr, and you are passing the first attribute is the first parameter is the attribute. You are going to select the class, and you will set it as fancy. The class attribute will be set as fancy. Many HTML tags include the properties as well as attributes, the most common being checked property of the radio button or checkbox. So many have attributes as well as the properties. So most commonly used one is the checked property of the radio button as well as the checkboxes. And also we can use the prop method. Okay, prop, this method, this is preferred way to retrieve and set the value of a property, although attr may return some less useful values. So either for setting the properties and getting the properties, either we can use attr, but most appropriate method is using the prop. That is a method for setting as well as getting the properties. In this example, we have an input element. The class attribute is meh, type is checkbox, and this is the property. Checked is equal to checked. Okay, the checked property is set as checked. Inside the jQuery, so if you want to, if you use the prop method and at attr attribute method, how you will get the values? uh, var, the box, this is the variable, the box is equal to jQuery shortcut notation dollar dot meh. So it will get this particular element. So dot meh, it matches with this one. It will get this particular element. Then once it gets that element, the element dot prop, the box dot prop checked. Okay, if you call the prop method, it will evaluate and it will say it is true or false. If it is set as checked, it will return true. If it is unchecked, it will return false. But if you call the attr, then you send the property checked, then it will evaluate it to the checked. Whatever is value that is set here, that will be returned. If you are using attr, then you have to inside your code you have to check whether it is checked or unchecked, whether it is a checked string or unchecked string. Then you make the decision. If you use the prop method, it can be directly used in the decision making. Okay, if you are using in the if condition, it will either return true if it is checked, or it will return false if it is unchecked. Changing the css, jQuery provides the extremely intuitive css methods. So jQuery, we have very useful, very intuitive means very easy to understand the css method. To get a css value, use the css method with one parameter. So in order to get the value of the css, we use the css method. Okay, to get, we send the one parameter. And if you want to set, same similar to prop and attr, css is the same method, one method used for the setting as well as the getting the values. In this case, if you send the one parameter, then it will get. If you send two parameter, then it will set that particular value. The second parameter will be value, and the first parameter will be the css property. Here is the example. Some variable dollar color is equal to, this is the dollar, inside I have the tag. So whichever the tag matches color box. Okay, so inside the your DOM, whichever is having the id as dollar color box, it will get the that particular element dot css background color. So for that element it will get the background color. If it is whatever the background color is set, that value will be extracted and it will be stored in the dollar color. If you want to set the value, if you want to set the value to blue, for example, or red, okay, if you want to set it to red, it is RGB, so ff, it is red. Same method can be used. So you will say dollar hash color box. So it will take the id which is having the, it will take the element, it will select the element which is having the id color box, and on top of that, once it gets that element, you're going to call .css method and background color. This is the property, and you are setting the value. This is the value for the hexadecimal value for the red color. So you are setting the that particular element background color as red. Some other methods, okay. The HTML method is used to get the HTML contents of an element. If passed with the parameter, it updates the HTML of that element. So we can use the HTML method to get the HTML content. Whatever is the HTML content, we can get it. And also if you want to update it, set it, you can set it. Similarly, the val method returns the value of an element. If the value is set for particular element, the val method can be used to get the value. And shortcut methods, add class, remove class, those can be used to add and remove the CSS classes. If you want to dynamically add and remove the CSS classes, you can use the add class and remove class, and you will send the class name as the parameter. The class name used for these functions can contain space separated list of class names to be added or removed. So we can have a space separated class names or a single class name. And there is another method, has class. So you can check whether particular class name is currently present or not. And if it is present, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So this is useful. Suppose if you are adding a class, you want to make sure that there is already a class, that particular class name is already existing, because that will be assigned to certain elements. By overwriting, it will change the appearance of those particular elements. jQuery listeners. In case we know it is a best practice, we include the listeners inside the window.onload method. So that as a good practice. So whenever everything gets loaded, the listener will be set up. Similar to that, in case of a jQuery, we have a ready method. So using a ready event, we can do the similar setup. Dollar document dot ready event. So we are going to use this particular method. So you can see here jQuery code to listen for the file inputs changing all inside the documents ready event. So you are setting up a listener where any there is any change in the file input. So for that you are setting up the listener, and that listener is inside the ready event. So dollar document dot ready, and inside the bracket, so this is the one parameter which you are setting as a sending as a anonymous function. So this is an anonymous function starts here, okay. uh, and we are setting up the input type is equal to file, so it is a file input, and dot change if there is any change to that file, and we are calling the another anonymous function. So that will be whenever there is a change, this particular function will be called. So it will be set as a listener. At any time there is a change in the file, this method will be called. And what this method will do, console.log. So it will just log the information. The file to upload is this dot value, whatever the value of that input file element, that will be stored in the log. Console.log will write into the log file. While pure JavaScript uses the add event listener. If you remember, in case of a pure JavaScript, we use the add event listener to add the listeners. And jQuery has on method as well as off methods. Okay. Uh, these are the methods to attach the events, similar to add event listener. In jQuery, we have on and off, and it will attach the events. This is the example. For example, this is the file. Okay, this is the file element. Everything is inside the uh, ready. Okay, ready event. So dollar document dot ready, then we have the function, and inside the function we have dollar colon file. Means what? uh, it will get the file input element, and to that you are attaching an event. What how to do that? You call dot on, and you pass what is the event you are looking for. You are looking for the change event, and if change happens, what you will do? You will call this particular function alert file name. When this is called here, this is the implementation handler function using a function alert file name and console.log. You are going to log the information, whatever the value is there. This file selected is concatenated with the value of that input file. Both will be concatenated and it will be written into the log file. Modifying the DOM. How to modify the DOM? This is the way we do in the pure JavaScript way. Okay, how to do that? We will have a some variable JavaScript link is equal to document dot create element a. So we are going to create a HTML element a using the create element method. Then once we created, we have the reference in the JS link. JS link dot href property will be set to this value http colon forward slash www dot funwebdev.com. That is the href value. And the HTML, inner HTML, we are going to set it as a visit us. Okay, link dot inner html, then title JavaScript capital JS. And in jQuery, how to do that? A simple way to do that in the jQuery is variable jQuery link is equal to excuse me, dollar inside the bracket, inside the double quotes, I have the a tag href is equal to the website, then title is equal to the value, and closing of this a opening tag, then we have the html content visit us, then the closing tag. So it is very intuitive, like the way you code the html, exactly the same way you are modifying the DOM. This is the short form. This is the long form of doing the same thing. You will have jQuery verbose link, then dollar. You have the opening tag of the link, that is A, and the closing tag, and then you are going to call the attr method. So if you remember attr method, we can access the attribute. We can get the attribute and we can set the attribute. So I have the this element already, a reference to this element. On that element jQuery verbose link dot, I'm going to call attr method. So I'm passing two parameters. That means first one, href property will be set to this value, and similarly dot attr, the title will be set as jQuery verbose, and the html will be set as visit us, which is exactly same like this. Okay, this is a javascript version. This is jQuery shorter form, and this is jQuery longer form. So this method is also like very easy to understand, and this is intuitive, like the way you code the html, it is exactly like that. We have append method. Method takes as a parameter an HTML string, a DOM object, or a jQuery object. That object is then added as the last child to the elements being selected. So append. So append is, like append is always at the end. So whatever the HTML you want to assign, means append, that can be done using the append method. This is the HTML before appending. We have div class external hyphen links. This is the name of the class. Inside this div I have one more div. This is the opening closing div. The class is link out, and this is the some content, HTML content. And I have another div class link in, and the content is forward slash local page.html. Then I have one more div class link out, and I have the some HTML content. This is the how we have the HTML. jQuery append. So using jQuery append, I'm going to modify it. Dollar dot link out. So where is the link out? You can see here. Sorry, dot. This is dot link out. Dot is class. So it will look for the class link out. This is the one element, and this is the second element. It's going to select both the elements. Dot append JS link. So whatever the JS link we modified here, okay, we are taking here JS link, whatever is the modified, that will be appended. Dot append JS link. You can see here, this is the link out, and at the end, means at the end it will append. So before the closing div, we have the complete the link which we created in the previous session. So you can see a tag href with this value, title, jQuery, and visitors, that has been set. And this is first element. This is the second element which is having the link out. So again, after pearson.com, it will append the same link. Then prepend. Okay, append, it will append at the end. Prepend, it will append at the first child. So it will make it as a first child. There is no difference. We are looking for dollar dot link out, so it will get this div element and this div element. And prepend, instead of append we said prepend, and the same JavaScript link we are sending. Now you can see this first child would be the this JS link. After the div we have the link, JS link, and after that we have the HTML content closing. Similarly here, this would be the first child, and then rest of the things will follow. Wrapping existing DOM in new tab. Suppose if you want to wrap existing HTML, we can use the wrap method. Here is the example. We have a div class external links. Inside there are three divs, class gallery, and this is the content, closing div, class gallery, national gallery, closing div, class link out, and HTML content is there, closing div. Now, if I want to wrap around with something, then I can do like this. Dollar, okay, this is the jQuery dot gallery. When you say dot gallery, it is going to get this and this element, these two elements, because they have the class name as gallery. Dot wrap, what you are going to wrap? A div class gallery link. So this is what you are going to wrap around this div. So you can see here this div, okay, it is wrapped around it by this one. So you can see div class gallery link. After that, inside we have this element, and then the closing element. So it is wrapping around that element. Similarly, this is also wrapped around by this div class gallery link. Inside we have the existing one, class gallery, and this is the closing. So it is wrapping around those elements. More advanced technique might make use of the content of each div being modified. In that case, we use a callback function in place of a simple element. So we can use the a callback function instead of using simple elements if you want to have some advanced changes. Wrap method is a callback function which is called for each element in a set. Okay, whatever the elements it has set, it will call it each time. Each element then becomes this for the duration of one of the wrap functions execution, allowing the unique title attribute shown in listing 15.12. So we'll see that example, code example, you will understand. Okay, this is the dot contact wrap function. This is the wrap function, and it will return this particular div class gallery link with the title and whatever is the content of that. And this is from the previous listing 15.9. So it is going to select this element and this element, and when it is wrapping around, okay, it is not just a plain content. Okay, you can see class gallery link class, this is wrapped by this, right? Class gallery link title, you can see title is done dynamically. Visit concatenated with dollar this means whichever the element we have, it's a HTML. Okay, you are concatenating. Okay, in this particular case, this element has a HTML content as this text UFIZI museum. So it is going to concatenate visit dollar this, and this is concatenated. You can see title is equal to visit and the the HTML of this particular element. Similarly, when it is wrapping around this element, what is the HTML content here? National gallery. So it is going to, this is a national gallery, so it is going to concatenate with visit. So title becomes visit national gallery. Okay, next one is the AJAX. AJAX are used for the asynchronous request. Okay, whenever you render the particular page, if there is any change, if you want to do any updates, one way is like again refreshing the page, loading the complete page. Okay, so even though you need only one part, let us say in your web application, one part it is displaying a time. Okay, the time keeps on changing, so we need not load the complete page, just we have to update the time. So using asynchronous calls, instead of loading the whole page, just the part of that page can be loaded. We can have a we can send the message to the server, and we can get the time, and we can update that particular part of the HTML. That can be used using the asynchronous JavaScript with the XML, that is AJAX. So AJAX is what? Asynchronous JavaScript with XML is a term used to describe the paradigm that allows a web browser to send messages back to the server without interrupting the flow what's being shown in the browser. So rest of the things will be as is, only certain part of the browser can be updated. So here you can see the UML of a asynchronous request. This is the client browser. We have browser interface and JavaScript. Here browser parses and builds the DOM. Then it renders the HTML page and runs the JavaScript. And once that is done, uh, uh, everything is like a kind of a in the waiting state, waiting for some event to happen. Okay, until a certain event occurs, like a user clicks a button, the browser synchronously handles the event in JavaScript. So it will, JavaScript will handle that. JavaScript handles the event asynchronously, requesting a web resources and returns the control to the browser. So there is certain event that happens, the browser synchronously handles it. Okay, the event in terms of a JavaScript, and JavaScript takes that particular event and handles that event asynchronously. Okay, requesting for some web resources, and it gives back the control. So the page will look as is. Then that asynchronous request goes to the server. So this is the server. So asynchronous request goes to the server, and the page is not whatever was visible earlier, it is the same thing that is visible. There is no change. While the server processes the request, the browser is not stuck waiting in a refresh state. Okay, browser is not at all stuck. Browser is as it was before. And once the JavaScript processes the response, and it will update that particular interface, whatever is the requested, it will update that. So you will have the latest page. This is how the asynchronous call request happens. This is the example. This is the page you have, and you have some kind of a time displayed here. The page loads and shows the current server time as a small part of a larger page. So this is a large page, and small part is the time. Suppose a synchronous JavaScript will make the HTTP request for the freshest version of the page while waiting for the response. The browser goes into the waiting state. So if you want to have the up-to-date time, if you use a synchronous JavaScript, what will happen is it will refresh the whole page and it will get the freshest page. So that time what will happen? The browser will go into the waiting stage. Okay, and the response arrives, so the browser can render the version of the page, and the functionality in the browser is stored. So whatever the information is there, you get the fresh page with the new value here. Okay, earlier it was 1223, now it has fresh page with the 1224, and it is displayed. So this is how happens if you use the synchronous calls. Now, asynchronous call, the same thing, the page loads, and this is the time. Now, asynchronous JavaScript call makes the HTTP request for just a small component of the web page that needs the update. So we need a update here. It make a asynchronous call, and while waiting for the response, the browser still looks the same and is responsive to user interaction. So rest of the page is as before, and it will not go into the wait state. Whatever the functionality is here on the rest of the page, that can be used by the user. It will not wait for this particular response. And once the response arrives, and through JavaScript, the HTML page is updated. So once the response comes, the JavaScript will take the response, and it will make update to the HTML. Only this part of the HTML will be changed, and that is how you will get a new type. jQuery provides a family of methods to make a synchronous request. We will start simple and work our way up. Consider the very simple server time example we just saw. If current time PHP returns a single string, let's say we have a server resource current time.php that returns a single string, which is the the time, and you want to load that value asynchronously into the div. Okay, so whatever the this HTML part you are seeing is the nothing but this div. Okay, id is equal to time div. There you are updating, you can asynchronously update that particular element. So this is how we can do. Let us say whatever the div you have here has this div. This div has a id as time div. So how to access that element? Dollar, this is the id, hash represents the id. What is the id? Time div. So it matches with that element. Dot load, and you will provide the resource, which resource to be called. So it will call the current time.php. That php program will be executed on the server, and a response will be sent as a string with the updated value, and that value will be dynamically updated to this particular div element. So this is the another example. Here we have a page, and in part of the page is a some kind of a voting is there. Okay, so whenever user clicks on the vote, so it will make an asynchronous call. That is dollar get. So this is dollar dot get. Here it was a load dollar dot get using a get request. The request contains, this is the resource vote.php. It will give this particular it will submit this to vote.php, and it will has a query string option C. Suppose let us say certain user has selected C and he has clicked on vote. You are sending a request to the server like this, asynchronous request dollar dot get, and you are passing the resource as well as the query string. Asynchronous vote submits the user's choice. Meanwhile, the browser remains interactive. So when the request has been sent, it will take certain time to be processed. So at that time, there is no change in the browser. Browser functionality, rest of the browser functionality is as is. And once the response is received, okay, from the server, and it is handled by the JavaScript, which user the response data to update the interface to show the poll results. Let us say it gets the response, okay, maybe the collective response is received, including this particular vote, and according to that, you will show the either numbers or as a bar chart, the different levels of voting. How many are in A, how many are in B, how many are in C, and how many are in D. So this is how you can dynamically change only this part without impacting the other part of the page. Okay, this is the get request. This is how the definition is: jQuery dot get or a dollar dot get. Dollar is the shortcut notation that is used for the jQuery. jQuery dot get, then you will give the URL, that is the location of the resource you are looking for the on the server, then optional data, then you will have the optional callback function and optional data type you are expecting. So URL is what? Is a string that holds the location to send the request. It means which location, which is the resource on the particular server. Data is an optional parameter, that is a query string or a plain object. If there is any data to be sent, then you will send the data. For example, in case of a voting option, you are sending the, because you have to send the what user has selected. But earlier time, you need not send any data. What you need is a current server time that can be fetched. Then you can have an optional callback function that executes when the response is received. So you can, this is a optional callbacks function. This is a callback function you can have, which will get executed when server response is received. And these are the three parameters: data, text status, and JQXHR, that is an object. Data is holding the body of the response as a string. So data will hold the complete response as a string. This text status will hold the status of that particular request, for example, a success or a fail, whatever the response we get. And jQXHR is it is a holding object. All the complete response is represented as a jQXHR object. We'll look into this particular object. Data type. This is the optional data type. Let us say if you are looking for particular data type from the server, you will specify that data type. This is an example. You can see dollar dot get, that is nothing but jQuery dot get, and you are giving the location, that is on the server. It is in the root directory oat.php, and you are passing the option. Then we have the a callback function. So this is the callback function. It starts from here and it ends here. That is the two parameters that we are sending. First one is the location, second one is the callback function. Callback function has a parameters: data, text status, JSXHR. Inside what you are checking is a text status. If it is success, you are going to write it into the log success responses, and you are going to write the complete response. You get it as a data. And if it is not success, means there is some problem, you are going to write into the log file JSXHR that object's status. So that status will have the information about the error, and at the end all is done. Whether it is success or failure, you are going to log as all done. All of the dollar dot get request made by the jQuery returns JQXHR object. Whenever you are making a dollar dot get request, it's going to return this particular object. Okay, in practice, that means data being referred to in the callback form listing 1513 is actually an object with a backward compatibility. So this JQXHR has a backward compatibility with XML HTTP request. So these are the methods: abort, stops execution and prevents any callback or handlers from receiving a trigger to execute. Get response header, it will get the header of the response. Takes parameter and gets the current value of the header. A ready state is an integer from 1 to 4 representing the state of the request. So when you make a request, so it captures the request. If it is 1, it is sending. If it is 3, response is being processed. 4 means it is completed. A response XML and or response text, the main response to the request. Whatever is the main response, that information will be available here. Set request header, name comma value. So before instantiating the request, if you want to change the header, you can use the set request header and you can change the request header. Status is HTTP request status code. So whatever is the HTTP request status, that will be stored in the status attribute. For example, 200, which is nothing but OK status. Then status text is a associated description with this particular status code. So this is how the different request goes in, the responses comes in from the client. You can see here from the client JavaScript, you are saying JXHR is equal to $get. Inside the bracket you are passing the URL. From here what happens, a get request will go o.php and with the option C, and it is processed on the server side. Then HTTP status is sent. Okay, so it is part of the object. So it is HTTP status is nothing but the part of the object. So this is the status. This object JQXHR has a attribute status which will capture the HTTP status. On this side you can check the HTTP status, and if it is 200 means everything is all right. Then you can call the JXHR done. Okay, so whatever you want to do, if it is successful, you can do that using this method. And if there is any kind of a HTTP status is 404 means it is a error. Whatever you want to do when it is a error, you can use that the error method. And if both are like after doing, whether it is success or failure, you want to process something else, you can use it JXHR object dot always. So that is how you can make the structure as more modular. So JQXHR objects have methods done, fail, always, which allows us to structure our code in a more modular way than inline callback. So how to do that? It is the example. This is the request, that is AJAX request, and JQXHR dot done. If it is a done, you are going to write it into the console, and you are going to write the whatever the information that is received as a response. It will be in terms of a string. And if it is a failure, this is what you are going to do. You are going to call this function, anonymous function, pass the object, and whatever is the error which is stored in the status, you are going to capture that. And if whether it is success or failure, if you want to process something, you are going to call the always method, and you are saying all done. So this is very modular structure. If you see the previous example, it is like this. Okay, if it is a success, then it will, you will write the data. Okay, then you will not do this, but this is going to be done always. So this is done, this is a representative of a done, this is a representative of fail, this is representative of always. So that is how you can consider done, fail, and always. Okay. Post requests we will see it in the next class.